Welcome back. The Federal Trade Commission has issued a ruling that would ban companies from having most employees sign non-compete clauses in the future. According to the FTC, these non-competes have kept everyone from fast food workers to chief executives from freely switching jobs, from starting businesses, and have lowered wages as a result. Now, this ban would apply nationwide, overriding any state laws on non-compete agreements. The agency estimates that about 30 million U.S. workers are bound by non-compete agreements. That's about 18% of the overall workforce. So what type of workers are we talking about here? Who is impacted? According to a 2021 study by the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, they include about 22% of people who work in sales and related occupations. The study also said 21% of people who work in management, business, and financial roles also sign a non-compete. It even includes 6% of workers who either work in agriculture or prepare and serve food. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has filed a lawsuit over the decision. It argues lifting the ban will hurt businesses who need to protect their confidential information. In a statement, they called the FTC's decision, quote, not only unlawful, but also a blatant power grab that will undermine American businesses' ability to remain competitive. Matthew Schwartz has been looking into this decision extensively. He's the host of the Uncommon Law podcast with Bloomberg Law and joins us now. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on the show, and good morning to you. This is a pretty historic move by the FTC here. So how did this decision come to be?
Yeah, you know, it's the most expansive FTC regulation in decades. They used to do a lot of regulations like this, or try, back in the 1970s, which got them famously labeled the national nanny by the Washington Post. But when President Biden came into power, he had an executive order a few years ago that really tried to promote competition. He called on the FTC to ban non-competes. He cited all the harms to workers, and he nominated Chair Lina Khan, who is notoriously pro-worker, pro-competition. And it passed by a vote of 3-2 over the strenuous objections of many businesses.
And in my lead into you, I said that the businesses, on the business side, they believe that this was just kind of a power grab. And one could also, when you think about a non-compete, that's kind of a power grab as well when you make sure you keep control over an employee, right? So is there some hypocrisy there for the average person out there who may not necessarily understand how a non-compete works? I know you and I, we understand just how we do business, but it kind of seems a little hypocritical.
Well, you would think that I would understand, that we would all understand, but in fact, a lot of highly educated people don't even know if they're subject to a non-compete. It could be part of the sheath of paperwork that you sign when you start a new job. It might tell you, oh, by the way, you can't start a competing business for the next 2 years. You can't work for a competitor within 100 miles or more. There is possibly hypocrisy on both sides. Companies say that it protects their trade secrets, right, and we can get into that. But one of the arguments is that it's anti-capitalistic to block competition, which is the lifeblood of our economy, to prevent a worker from going elsewhere because you don't want to compete in the market. So that's why the government is trying to block these.
Interesting. Okay, so 2 members of the FTC voted against the ban, and said the decision won't survive legal challenges. So what do you foresee in just kind of the conversations that you've had and all of that?
Yeah, the agency is taking an expansive view of its power. It's basing that view on one case from the D.C. Circuit 50 years ago. The Chamber of Commerce says that the agency clearly lacks authority, that this is the sort of thing that Congress should be doing, not the agency, and that they engaged in a sort of statutory jujitsu in order to find the power needed. Traditionally, the FTC has been able to go after companies to punish them for bad actions. They haven't really made these wide-ranging prescriptive rules before the fact. So this has already been challenged. It's almost certainly going to be put on hold. A judge will issue an injunction. And then this is going to wind its way through the courts. And it could take years before this actually goes into effect. Ultimately, we're probably looking at a Supreme Court decision on this. And as you can imagine from the makeup of the Supreme Court, they're not likely to be very friendly to this regulation.
Interesting. All right, so we may have to wait some years to see how this all pans out. Matthew Schwartz, a host of the Uncommon Law podcast with Bloomberg Law. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.